So in this video, we're going to take a look at these Hombli smart sockets, which can not only just turn on or off the connected device, but you can also monitor the wattage. So how much power you're actually using for the specific device that is connected to these sockets here, and they can handle up to 16 amps. So that's a lot of wattage. So you can pretty much just connect whatever to one of these sockets here and kind of measure whatever you have connected to it in terms of how much power it uses. And you can also, of course, control that device. So set, for instance, a schedule to turn off the specific device to save some power during nighttime. That's definitely one of the situations I want to use these, but also just to monitor my computers and servers and TV and refrigerator around the house and just see how much power that they actually consume. And of course, maybe upgrade those down the line if that kind of makes sense in terms of saving a little bit on that power bill. But anyways, this was like in stock here locally and on sale, and you get one for free if you buy 3 of them. Or yeah, you pay for 2 and get 1 for free. I've never heard of this company, Hombli. Believe it's from the Netherlands, and I kind of took a look at their app before I actually bought these, and it seemed to be pretty decent. So we'll also kind of take a look at that in this video here. But this is what you get if you get this bundle, of course, with 1 for free. Get this in this little packaging. But they have this like green coloring for their color scheme, also for the logo of their app, and that these are pretty much identical to, I believe, any other smart plug you can get out there, which also kind of measures the power usage of the specific device. Not really anything different or too different about all of these devices. This, of course, is the European version because I live in Europe. So this is with the Shuku plug. Do actually use a little bit different plug here in my country, which is in Denmark, but we can still use this Shuku plug and like set up to 16 amps. So that is 3,680 watt. And there is overload protection and flame retardant material. So that's nice if your table will catch on fire, or if your home catch on fire, the smart plug there will survive. And then energy monitoring, which is like one of the reasons why I wanted to upgrade. I have zone off smart plugs throughout my home, but those cannot monitor the energy consumption, and I'm also a little bit tired of the EV-Link app, so I kind of wanted to try something different. And of course you can use it with voice control, so I believe it's only with Google and Alexa as well. I do not believe you can use this with Siri, at least not natively. No hub is required, of course. Connect directly to your Wi-Fi router and GDPR compliant, whatever that is. So let's just get into the box here, just cut through the seal. Of course we will set it up in this video here and run a quick test. So what you're presented with, of course, the 3 smart plugs right here in the top of the box. Warning, this free smart socket might reduce your electricity bill. So nice, not really free because I did pay, for the smart plugs, but definitely was the cheapest one here in my country. So let's get those out of the box. And what else we get in the box, a little bit of paperwork and some cardboard there just to hold in the plugs during transport. So some important safety instructions. Let's just get rid of that and let's have a look at the quick start instructions. Pretty simple. You download the app, of course available on Google Play Store and Apple App Store, and then you pretty much just plug in the plug and you can set it up, and that's pretty much it. It should be pretty easy to do so. And there's also a little bit of QR code there if you want to set up your device and get a little more help from the website. You can scan the QR code. They also do have other Hombli branded devices, but I believe these are just branded devices. It's not like Hombli make them themselves. You can get so many of these devices, pretty much the same internals that you can also use in the smart home app, which you can do with these ones here. And we'll also test that in this video. But else, white plugs with a little bit of Hombli branding here on the top. A little bit hard to see because of the bright light, but yeah, Hombli here. You do have a power button on the side. Unfortunately, this power button does light red constantly when they are turned on. When you turn the switch off, they will turn off, but it would be nice to just be able to disable that. I've not been able to do so. I've already tried these plugs. I cannot find that feature in the app, unfortunately, so that's a little bit annoying in my opinion. But else, we do have a standard 2-prong connector here for European countries. Does also have ground connection if your plug support that. And then we have some model numbers here. So this is the HBSS-0109 Smart Socket 220 to 250 volt, 50 Hertz, 16 amps max, made in China, and so on and so on. A lot of information there on the bottom side of the plug. And on the top side here, of course, we do have that standard like Shuku mount or plug with also ground as well if you use that. And yeah, like I said, this is a true prong connector. Other than that, just a wide plug all the way around. It does have some weight to it. Let's just throw it on the scale here and see what kind of weight we actually get. Okay, so 80 grams straight. Let's try the other one and see if that's the default weight. So yeah, just around 80 grams. So not super heavy, but doesn't really matter if you just plug them in. And speaking of plugging them in, let's just get the app up and running first here. I already have it installed, but of course go to your selected app store and install it. So Hombli does have this green color scheme like I talked about, but I don't know if you notice this. If you get into the app, if you are used to like smart home app, it is very familiar with that app layout. All the tabs down here, as well as going to your account information, looks very similar. Or excuse me, the Smart Life app, not Smart Home. But if you go to the Smart Life app, you can see, even though this is of course black coloring because you can select the dark mode here, much of the app's functions is pretty identical. So if you get into like your profile here, you can see pretty much the same layout. So let's just plug them in. One thing to keep a note of though, is that these plugs themselves do also draw a little bit of power. It's not really that much, but it's just something to take account of. And for my testing, they can only measure above 3 wattage. So if you're connected to a device, standard by power, for instance, is below 3 wattage. You cannot really monitor that through the app. So it's only 3 wattage and above if you want to monitor the power consumption or power usage. And you can see plugging it into power here, we do consume around 1.6 wattage just by connecting the plug. You can see the plug is in pairing mode. I don't know if you can see this, but the little LED there is flashing. So of course it does take a little bit more power actually setting it up. You can either go up here to the plus sign and of course connect a new device, or just add device here. You can see right off the bat, it did detect the Hombli smart socket. Let's add that right now. Then of course you need to connect to Wi-Fi, but you need to connect to 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi because this socket only supports 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, which is not really an issue, but just make sure you connect to the proper SSID. So once you connected to the 2.4 gigahertz SSID, of course, type in the password for that specific Wi-Fi and click next. And you can see here, it is kind of setting it up right now. I believe the LED at some point should go static. Just did right there. You can see this red instead. And the power consumption also went down just a little bit. So in my testing, the smart plug does use around 0.5 wattage on average when it's turned off. But when it is turned on, you can see it does hover around the 1 wattage plus minus. So again, that's the one thing to keep a note of. Plugging like I, for instance, bought 12 of these into my home, it will also consume at least 12 wattage of power if they are actually turned on. So yeah, the device did not connect for some reason. Let's try and disconnect it again. Plug it back in and see if it gets into pairing mode. Does seem to be flashing. No, it seems to be steady red now. Of course, showing this on video, I run into issues. I've set like 6 of these plugs up now and had no issues, any of them. So it turns out the issue was my network. I had a device making a loopback issue on one of my NAS servers, accidentally connected one of the LAN ports 2 times, or the second LAN port, to the same switch. So it was kind of making a loopback issue. But anyways, let's just try and set this one up. I just want to show you how easy it actually is. This is with Smart Life app, but pretty much identical with the Hombli app as well. Discover new device, add this one, connect to the right Wi-Fi network, of course. Need to make sure that this is a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi network. Click the little next button. You can see they're kind of connecting right now. Shouldn't take more than a few seconds. Hopefully this time it will actually work, because yeah, it's not the device's fault. This is totally on me and my local network. And you can see the smart socket added. You can of course rename it right there. Call it whatever you would like. Let's just click done. And now you can see the Hombli smart socket connected and ready to go. And you can monitor, of course, its power consumption. So this is how easy it is. And also, if you want to rename your device after you actually installed it, you can click the little icon up there. You can see, of course, device name. You can get some device information here. So IP address, MAC address, where it's connected, and also signal strength. That could actually be kind of useful, because I had to kind of move my refrigerator a little bit of a different place that I usually have my plug, a little bit higher off the ground, just to get a better signal because that was kind of dropping out. So going here and see signal strength. You can also leave a review if you would like to do so and connect that specific device up to Alexa and Google Assistant. You can also get offline notifications, which could be kind of useful. So if it's offline, you will be notified. You can share a device, create a group, flag and feedback, add to home screen. It's already at home screen, so not really sure why I would add it again, but you can also check device network. So run this little check here and you can see it will test the strength of the Wi-Fi, if it's connected, and detect the network connect status as well. So again, if you have some issues with your device, it's a nice little tool. Go in and see if everything is hooked up properly and there is plentiful of signal strength. Very useful as well. And also if there's any kind of firmware update, this is also where you go in and check for updates. You can auto update or you can also go manually, but these ones are up to date. So the issues I had with connecting these devices were totally my home network. There I had a loopback issue, which was causing an issue with not only these, but also my other smart devices. So it is very easy to get up and running and there is a lot of functions. So going through the Smart Life app, of course you have your plugs here. You can either just turn them on or off just manually, but you can also set a schedule or a scene. For instance, you want to turn it on or off for specific times a day. You can set that up or maybe turn it on when you get home. So geofencing, or if you are like setting up routines, you can also turn them on and off by using any of those routines. So plenty of options here, how to set them to automatically turn it on and off, or of course turn the power off during sunset, or power on during sunset and power off on sunrise, and so on and so on. A lot of options. And like I said, you do get more information here on the Smart Life app, including this little weather widget here. It'll kind of tell you a little bit about your environment, just using the weather information in your local area, which I kind of like. And let's just go into my server here, 4 servers and a LAN switch. And of course, you can turn on and off there. You can go into specific schedules for this specific plug, but I just recommend going into the scene here and you can just create automations or schedules there for all of the plugs together or just for one plug specifically, like I've done here. And then of course you can go in and monitor the energy consumption, which is definitely one of the main reasons why I wanted to upgrade, also just to get a little bit better app. I'm a little bit tired of eWeLink app. If you use multiple devices, you continuously have to log in because it logs you out of the previous used app and so on. Smart Life app doesn't have that issue. You can be logged in with multiple devices at the same time. So if you have multiple phones, or if you have a tablet and a smartphone and so on, you just use the same login and have your same devices. But anyways, here you can see how much power you're actually using. So I'm using just above the 150 wattage. Of course, the voltage you're using, the total wattage. But like I said, power consumption in wattage, you can only monitor above 3 watts. So anything below 3 watts, you will just see a 0 here. And it seems to be fairly accurate. I tried to measure it up against a device like this, which I believe is pretty accurate. Of course, there's always a little bit margin of error there. And it seems to be within 0.01 to 0.03 wattage agreement with this specific power meter. So I believe they are fairly accurate, actually, so you can use them accurately to monitor all of your devices. I just want to see, for instance, what it would cost me to actually run 4 servers 24/7. You can see 150 wattage. You will also see a plot here. I have been connected since January the 4th. You can go back and forward and see how many watt hours you actually used for that specific day. I do wish that out here on the homepage that maybe we could just see actual wattage for that specific plug instead of you having to go into the servers, for instance, and then go into energy. There's 2 extra steps you actually have to go through. But there's also this Smart tab that's not on Hombli application, where you can actually go in and monitor all your plug together and see how many kilowatt hours you have actually used. This is during the last 7 days, 27.66 kilowatt hours. This is again not a thing that you have on the Hombli app. You can also kind of subscribe to the services so you can get more details, analytics, and so on for each specific device. And yeah, I'm not really sure I will do that, but you can do so at a fairly low cost. For instance, an annual subscription is like $25. Could be worth it maybe to you, but I'm just going to hold up a little bit. Of course, you get weather information as well, and also Smart Protect. But I do not have any cameras or alarms or anything connected to Smart Life at the moment. And then, of course, you have your Me account here, where you can also actually connect it up with smart things, Google Assistant and Alexa. And also if this, then that. It doesn't support Apple at the moment. It's a little unfortunate, but you can set up the smart things. If you, of course, like me here, have a Samsung device, link to that, and you can control it using smart things. For me personally, I use Google Home for most of my devices. You can see here down towards the bottom, we have the plugs. Unfortunately, the only function you have with Google is just turning them on or off. Would be nice again to see some kind of wattage usage on these plugs, some of the smarter information, but you cannot do so. But you can control them just on and off, and of course include them in whatever kind of room you want to set them in, and also all of the schedules and quick commands and so on you can enable in Google. But they do work with Google Home as well. That's the only one I have tried as of yet. Then you have Message Center, show some notifications, FAQ and feedback, and home management. So you can also go and create home, and you can also, create several rooms if you would just want to organize it within the app. I have not done so yet. So in the Hombli app, you get pretty much the exact same layout here in the Home tab. So that's where you have all of your devices connected. You can turn on and off, and you can monitor the power consumption. Then you have Scenario, which is a pretty cut down version of the Smart Life app, but it does have most of the functionality there. But you can see you're missing one tab, so you cannot get more advanced power consumption information, which they can just call Smart here. So your energy savings and so on, that tab is completely gone. And then of course you have your account, but with Hombli you only have Alexa and Google Assistant, so you cannot connect it with Smart Life and if this then that. But else it is pretty much the same. You can manage your room the same way. The Message Center here, where you give notifications from specific devices and so on. So yeah, in general, the Hombli app is just a cut down Smart Life app. So I definitely would recommend you go and get the Smart Life app if you want to connect more devices through the same hub. Of course, if you only have Hombli devices, don't think it matters that much, unless you want the more advanced features here of the Smart Life app. But of course, if you have multiple devices that support Smart Life, it just makes it so much easier to have it within one app. And one thing I forgot to mention here is if you have a tablet computer, this is a Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra. Both Hombli and Smart Life app doesn't support landscape orientation, so that's a little bit annoying. Just thought I would mention that because I use my tablet exclusively in landscape mode. But this one here, you're gonna have to move it around to be able to kind of go in and look at your smart sockets. So it's pretty much just a smartphone app that they have for the tablet devices. I hope they will update that in the future, so you could kind of get a little more tablet UI going on for using it on a tablet device. So for these smart plugs here, I think it doesn't really matter which one you actually buy. If it's Hombli or any of the other name brand that supports Smart Life, probably pretty close to the same internals. So these ones specifically, I would definitely recommend them. I've used them without any issues. Of course, ran into some issues here in this video. That's also typically when you want to show them off or show how they function. They of course will not function, but I'm pretty sure this is just my local network that is acting up right now. So yeah, definitely would recommend these ones here. Fantastic devices, especially if you can get them cheap. For instance, like one free if you buy two of them. That's definitely a good deal. But I wouldn't really recommend these ones over other smart plugs that support Smart Life application. Of course, unless you really are tied into the Hombli ecosystem. If you want to do that, of course, fine. But you can also just use those devices with the Smart Life app. And the Hombli app is a cut down version of the Smart Life app. And I seem to, as of this video, have not been updated for a year or so. So you don't really know with these brands here, whenever they decide to kind of pull the plug, no pun intended, and just kind of stop supporting the devices throughout the app, because maybe they don't sell enough devices and so on and so on. Then you are kind of stuck with like a version of the app that's not really updated anymore. Versus the Smart Life app uses multiple devices. You can pretty much use whatever you want that supports that app. And the app has been updated within in a week or so as of making this video as well. So pretty recent or frequent updates, and also quite a bit more functionality within the app. And also the dark mode, I think, is a nice little added bonus. For me personally, I like dark modes. I would like to be able to just switch off the power LED within the app. Just maybe leave it on for 10 seconds whenever you turn on the device, just to get a verification that it's turned on, and then just turn off again. It is annoying to have those little standby lights that turn on or turned on constantly when the device is on. They do turn off when you turn off the power of the device, but don't really see the benefit of using power with little LED there. And also it can be a little bit annoying some places in your home. As well as just keep in mind that these do suck a little bit of power themselves. So for my testing, around 0.5 to 1 wattage just turned off, and 1 to 1.5 wattage-ish when they're actually turned on. So if you have multiple of these devices, it will also suck a little bit of power. So for instance, if you want to connect one to a TV, so you can turn it off during sleep when you're actually sleeping and not watching TVs to save a little bit on the standby power. And if your TV maybe only using 1.5 watt or maybe 0.5 wattage when it's actually in standby, you will actually consume more power connecting one of these devices. That's something to keep a note of. You will not really save anything on those low power consumptions. And also the fact that you cannot monitor anything below 3 wattage is also just a no. So if you connect it and you just see 0 wattage in terms of actual usage or current usage, it just means that it is below 3 wattage. But other than that, I will definitely recommend this. If I can find some links, I will share them down in the description below if you're interested in these devices here. Else, that's pretty much all I have for this video. I hope to see you again in a future one. Until then, take care.